be here. Honored to be here with you guys. I think what you guys are doing is tremendous. I think it's amazing to have, a Better Gentleman podcast. That's really dope.
Yeah, we're trying to be better men. That's the whole purpose. We're encouraging other men to be better men, and through this, we want to grow as gentlemen as well.
I think that's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Kudos to you guys, all of you guys.
Thank you.
And I think already, I've seen so much growth in all of us really quickly. It's almost like we were speaking about earlier, is when you put yourself into it, you got to live it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to be authentic.
Exactly.
So that's very important.
Authenticity is so important.
And so many people are on board. It's really not that hard to get listeners. When I'm out, I go to restaurants and things like that. And I sit at the bar and I'll start speaking to people. I sit at the bar, but I don't drink. That's also making a statement as well.
Right.
I'll order juices, or the other day I went to Tarpon Springs, and I went to the Sponge Docks because there's a place over there called Lori Soaps, and they have natural soaps, natural lotions.
Love that.
Actually, I got you a gift, Paula.
Me? Oh my gosh.
Yes, I did. And I brought. Oh man, I forgot Tom. Did Tom leave already?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
I got Kelsey a gift too.
Okay,
I forgot to give it to her, man.
He lives nearby. I can drop it off.
Let me see. What did I do with it? It's oh, there we go.
It's got a 6-day backpack.
Yeah, I know, right? So I brought.
Busy.
I don't know which one you like more. This is a natural soap, and it has the sponge in it from down in the Sponge Docks.
That's amazing.
This one, I don't know which one you like better, but I'm gonna give one to Kelsey, and actually, you know what? Take both of them. They're both for you. Well, I'll bring Kelsey. I'll bring Kelsey another one. Yeah, they're for you. Yeah. That one's kind of funny. It's called monkey farts.
Oh. Okay.
Which is really weird. But it smells amazing. It doesn't. It's really interesting.
Does it smell like a monkey would fart if you had to think of one?
Did you get a background on why it was called monkey farts?
That's actually a great question. I should ask them that. but when I was there, the lady that runs the shop, we started speaking, and I was telling her about our show, and man, she immediately connected with our show.
Okay.
And she was like, man, and that's what a lot of women say, when I talk to them, is man, I need to tell my son about your show.
Yes.
Nice.
And they want their late 20s, early 30-year-old son to chime into what we're doing, male growth.
Right.
And she's like, man, he's plugged into this woman for years that doesn't work, and he does everything for her,
Okay.
and she's like, I don't think that's right, I don't, and I was just thinking, I'm like, man, I've been there.
There's reciprocity.
What's the goal of the relationship? Because just because she doesn't work, does she provide value in other ways?
Right.
And that's a great question. Yeah. I don't think they have any kids together either.
Okay.
But
so that could be a problem.
That could be a problem.
It sounds like she may be taking advantage of that young man, right? So, and that's an issue in today's society for sure.
Or is it an overprotective mama, which there's nothing wrong
Could
with
be.
that. So that would be a situation that David might need to delve into a little bit more.
A little deeper, yeah.
Just because mama's always going to be the most protective woman in a young man's life, right?
You got to get the details of the situation. Yeah, for sure.
But in general, I think speaking on relationships, it's so important to have that balance, right? Reciprocity. If we don't have that balance, that's where everything starts to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what so many relationships, marriages nowadays are encountering, lack of balance, and just maybe one person giving more than the other, or maybe one person caring more than the other, or things like that. But in general speaking, I think we were talking about some statistics as far as marriages and divorce.
We were talking about so divorce rates are pretty high right now, right? So 50% of marriages right now, and it might be more at this point, are ending in divorce.
Wow.
And 80% of those divorces are initiated by women.
Wow.
Men typically don't leave relationships up. Marriage rates are plummeting, single motherhood rates are rising. So what is the cause of all of that? I think social media has a part to play in that, for sure. But there seems to be a divide between men and women these days. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think's happening? The traditional gender roles are out the window. Nobody's following that anymore, right? The male is the primary protector, provider, and the woman or the female is the caregiver and the nurturer. That no longer holds as much value as it used to. When my grandparents got together very young in their lives, I think my granddad was 20 and my grandmother was 18, or they got married, and that was the consensus, was that my granddad would work and provide, and my grandmother would stay at home and take care of the home and the children, and it worked. They were together for I don't know, over 50 years, 55 years. But nowadays, we don't see that as often. We don't see couples staying together or even getting together the way they used to. So what's happening? What is causing this change in relationship values from your perspective?
Well, I think I want to touch a little bit on what you said as far as roles, marriage roles, right? So yes, back in the day, the man was the provider, the woman stayed home, took care of the house, things like that. I think at some point it became the norm where both the man and the woman had to step out of the home, and not had to or chose to step out of the home to equally provide for the household. And then it became an issue where the woman was still held responsible for the other things, the extra things like taking care of the kids and, taking care of the house, things like that. And I think that when that happens, there definitely is a shift in power, because now we're seen more as equals. In other words, I don't have to depend on anybody. I can do this on my own. In fact, I'm doing the majority of it on my own as it is. Mm-hmm. So there may be a shift in the process, in the thinking process of, well, why do I need to be married if I'm doing all this on my own? If I can be a provider and still take care of everything else, why am I in a relationship feeling like I'm not being reciprocated, per se, mm-hmm. where I can just be alone and do this all on my own? Okay,
so you're saying that there are a certain percentage of women out there that are sort of playing the dual role of provider and nurturer?
Yes, mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay.
And I think that's a little a bit of a drop of the ball of men, because back in the day, when it was, the guy did this, the woman did this, that's just how it was. Right. Well, like you said, there was that shift in dynamic, and men didn't pick up on that, and they were still like, well, I'm just gonna work because that's all I need to do. And then the women, as that pendulum started to swing, it's like, well, I'm working, maybe not as hard, or maybe less hours, maybe even the same amount of hours as you, mm-hmm. but you still want me to do this, work a full-time job and do X, Y, and Z? I don't need you. So I think that happened. Now that's a black mark on us as men, society speaking and historically speaking. Like, we probably should have caught on to that earlier and been like, well, okay, now that she's providing income and all this, maybe my role now has just shifted from working. Now you need to, like you said, come in the middle, right? And that didn't happen.
Right.
So I'm sure that jaded, I don't know if that may be too strong of a word, but that put a sour taste in female
psyche,
in the female psyche.
Absolutely.
And so if we're going to be men and we need to take responsibility, we probably are partly the creator of this issue, right?
Right.
I agree.
If we're being,
it always goes back to men. If you follow the trail, if you dig deep, it always goes back to a man's choice.
And who am I? I don't have, my psychology degree came out of a Cracker Jack box. So, mm-hmm. You take it with a grain of salt, but this is just from the layman trying to take a objective look at it. Like, yes, there was a paradigm shift.
Yes.
And we us as men did not recognize it
What was the catalyst for that paradigm shift, though? Did men ask for women to be providers, or did
I think
women take it upon themselves to decide they also wanted to be provisioners within relationships? What was that catalyst swing? And I'm asking,
hypothetical.
I already know the answer.
I think in essence it stemmed from the fact that women wanted to have more rights.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, for me,
Sure.
women wanted to have equal rights as men, and so we became a little bit more independent as we were allowed to.
Right.
And so I do feel that was a major catalyst in all of this, absolutely. And women did want freedom. We want our freedom. We want to be independent and sufficient on our own. I don't think that, in all honesty, it should have gotten to the point where we start to neglect marriage is an important part of existence. I mean, marriage is important for those people that believe they need to be in a marriage and want to work towards a marriage. That's very important. But you also have to go into a marriage with the understanding that this is a commitment. I don't believe it's a 50-50 type of job. I believe it's a 100 and 100. You both
I like
give
that.
100,
It is 100,
you know?
100. Yep.
I'm not going to give 50% of myself with anything that I do. So why
Right.
would I do that for a marriage? I'm going to give 100% of me, but then I would love for you to also give 100%.
Yeah.
We're human. We don't always have 100% to give, but we have to be able to come to an understanding and a mutual agreement that if I can't provide 100% this day, then can you step up a little bit more? And I think that's where the lack of maybe communication or understanding is happening, where people are not, because we have so much going on. Honestly, it's just so much. There's so much in life just happening that we neglect that just like human nature in us, the human nature of just, you're not good today, I got you. We're so focused on just, this is the way things have to be, this is the way things should be, and we lack that just moment of clarity, of understanding. At the end of the day, we're all human.
Right.
We're all human. We have our good days, we have our bad days. The point of marriage is to come together and work through that.
Okay. Yeah. Those are great points. Absolutely. You mentioned rights as a woman.
Yes.
So now we're talking about feminism, right?
Yes.
That's the word,
Correct.
right? That's the word.
It's the buzzword.
That's
now.
the buzzword. That's what we're talking about. It's feminism.
Yes.
It's equal rights for men and women.
Yes.
And I am totally on board for that. I don't think there's a single right that men have that women shouldn't have, right?
Agreed.
And I think if we examine it today, right now, we can say with all honesty that women have all the rights of men. I don't think any woman can pinpoint a right that a man has today that they themselves don't have. And I would challenge a woman to find a right that a man has that you don't have today.
I don't think it's so much quote unquote rights. I think it's more of an expectation at this point. Women have different expectations than men do. And so we are expected to behave and live our lives in a certain way, versus men really don't have very many of those, I think.
Expectations?
Not expectations as in, okay, like, how do I clarify? Like, we expect women to be the nurturer, the caregiver for the kids, the that part of it. Men don't have that expectation unless you're a single dad, or unless you whatever. For the most part, I feel like men don't have that expectation, whereas women are expected. So in a sense, as a woman, you have to know that this is your role. Once you step into a marriage, regardless, this is what you're going to have to do, unless there's some sort of agreement beforehand that you and your partner have come to. But for the most part, you are as expected as a woman to do certain things that are not expected out of men, and I guess vice versa, the same thing for men.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point. So there are expectations of men. It's just different expectations, right? So as men, we are expected to be the providers. We are expected to, earn that money, keep a roof over our head, pay those bills.
Somewhat. I don't think that's so much an expectation anymore.
It's it's not so much where we're the only ones that can do that, but even from a working female's perspective, most women, and there are polls that cite this, but most women do not date men who are below them socioeconomically, meaning they expect a man to either make as much money as they do or make more money than they do. So there is still that expectation that a man has to be that primary provider and protector, right? Also, if somebody breaks into the home in the middle of the night, it's expected of me to get up and take care of that problem. I'm not going to sit back and go, listen, we're equal. Why don't you get up? I'm going to sit this one out. Here comes this guy.
I did all the yard work yesterday.
I changed 12 diapers today. So now it's on you to go handle this intruder. That's an expectation, and it's a serious expectation because we're going to be the ones that take a bullet for you. It's not vice versa. So there are plenty of it's different. It's just different expectations, right?
Correct.
So
I guess more so it's expectation maybe wasn't the right word. Maybe more so like gender roles that are we're expected to live by. So like gender roles, as a man, you have this gender role of being the protector, of being the one that has to do the things that the woman can't do because she's a woman, and vice versa.
Sure.
So yeah, that's absolutely true. At the end of the day, though, I think that so many marriages are falling apart, and having this issue, divorces at such a high rate because there is a huge lack of communication just in general.
Yeah.
I think people just need to, again, understand that human nature of us, and within relationships with each other, like, let's talk, like, let's understand each other better. And that goes back to something else that we were saying earlier too. So many relationships, and I could speak from personal experience, just are so driven by the initial physical attraction. We lack the discipline, I guess you could call it, to explore people on those levels that really do matter. Yes, the physical is important because that's what attracts us to people. But at the end of the day, what is really important to you in a marriage? What are the things that are going to keep us together and pull us apart? And those things aren't explored because we're so caught up in the physical and so caught up in that moment of, okay, I love you because I like the way you look. And then here we are like 10 years later getting a divorce,
I agree with that. And so the purpose of this conversation is not to like point out the differences between men and women and like point fingers.
Correct.
It's to try to figure out how we can do better in relationships. How do we get these numbers back into the green? Because right now they're in the red, right? Marriage rates, divorce rates, single motherhood rates, they're in the red. Society is not moving in a direction that is beneficial to families and having a strong community and family structure. And so who's suffering? The next generation of people are suffering. The youth are suffering because of this. How do we get back? How do we get that connection, that need or that drive to have strong family values? How do we do that?
I'm sorry.
I'd like to say something here.
Go ahead.
So I think how do we do that? We have to focus like on our sons, and like you were just speaking about it. Like we have to teach them not to pay so much attention to the physical beauty of a woman, because really that's what it goes back down to. If you really start looking at, like, if you examine when we're younger why men get with women when they're younger, I bet you there's a poll that a lot of them got with that woman because of her looks, and really the beauty is in the heart, and we have to teach that to our children. But how do you teach them that, and how do you, like, where these principles come from? And so I think it goes back to, where's God in your family? If you have no God in your family, then it's not sustainable. Whatever you got going on, it's not sustainable because there's no manual. There's no manual for anything else that's going on. There's no manual. That if you read that manual, it gives you everything, and then you pray together, you move together, you grow together. When you spoke about earlier, we spoke about mowing the neighbor's grass, or watering the neighbor's grass. Well,
It's just work at that point.
yeah, definitely. Well, if you go over there together and you water that grass together as a unit, that's a lot different than you going over there
You and your partner watering your neighbor's grass.
watering your neighbor's grass. So like what I'm saying is like you and your partner taking on the world together and growing together is really where it's at. So when you talk about why do we have all these different like why are we so separated? Why are we moving in this direction? It has a lot to do with us not moving together.
Right.
You're not focused on, like
Growth.
she works over here, I work over here, or he stays at home, she stays at home. It's like, yo, shouldn't you be like moving in purpose together? Or shouldn't that be the ultimate goal at the end of the day, is to like, work together and grow together and move together? And if you're not doing that, then you're not going to get any growth, right?
I think that's a great point. I think, in my personal experience, the relationships that have ended, and have not been successful have been the ones where either both of us didn't want to grow or one of us didn't want to grow. And so it's very important that you both be on the same page and want to grow together. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Yes.
It's not going to work. Growth is just such an important part of us as human beings, I think. And when we come together with someone, it's almost like, like how you hear that when you're with someone, they know exactly what buttons to push. They know exactly what to do to set you off. That's because you're meant to grow together. Those triggers, those buttons that get pushed are kind of like a sign to you to be like, okay, this is where you need growth. So this person is actually serving as and I don't want to say tool, but like a vehicle to your growth. You just have to be able to recognize that. You have to be able to recognize that within each other. Unfortunately, it hardly ever turns into that. It turns into war, and then you end up going separate directions. But at the end of the day, I do believe that wanting to grow together, and of course, personally and together as a unit, is going to make the difference in a relationship 100%.
Okay.
Also, like once you start hitting, a lot of times, like, in relationships, we get this pressure. And we look for ways to relieve the pressure. And sometimes as men or women, we can plug into the wrong things, and it's like, no, if you take that pressure like head on together, you'll get through that pressure together. Like there's growth on the other side of that pressure. Like that's a test. And if you pass that test together, you've just made your unit stronger. So instead of like turning to alcohol or turning to another woman or turning to drugs or relieving yourself by watching football or whatever, focus on what you need, like focus on what's like in front of you, like the problem, and go toward it and fight it like together, and how do you do that? Like how would you, you got to communicate. You're like, you got to identify the problem. Like, what is our problem? And then you can't get defensive. Like if someone, like, you have to be able to talk to each other. You have to be able to have transparency. Yeah. And if I go to point out something about you and you're getting defensive every time, I'm going to stop trying to point out things about you, and then we're not going to get any growth. We're going to be stuck.
I would agree with that. Communication is very important.
Communication is like one of the, like probably the key.
Yeah. And I'm an advocate for therapy.
Yes,
More people need
Say it
to.
again.
I think more people need to be involved in therapy.
And we need counselors. Like men
Absolutely.
men need to stop. Like what we're actually learning now. We need to have a counselor. You have to have someone to talk to.
Absolutely.
And don't go to the bar to talk about your problems, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like actually have a professional, someone, but you have to feel yourself around. You got to find that right fit for you. It might take you, I don't know, you might go through 3 or 4 counselors before you find the one that really works for you.
Right.
But men, we have to have someone to speak to.
Yeah, there's such a huge stigma. John, were you going to say something? No. There's such a huge stigma right now. Well, there always has been such a huge stigma on like therapy and having a therapist. I think especially for men, and in communities of people of color, right? So there's always been that huge stigma of like, oh, you're going to therapy? Like immediately people are like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know? So, but in all honesty, it should be something that we all take as
Embrace it.
seriously as our medical doctors, like
Yes.
our primary care physician, our dentists. This should be something that we utilize to the benefit of our health on a daily basis, because if your mind is not right, your body's not going to function.
Sure.
I mean, hands down, you're not, if you're depressed, if you're dealing with anxiety, whatever it is, if you don't get that under control, you're not going to be able to function, period. So it is so important, like you said, for mental health and therapy in our lives nowadays. I think.
Agreed. Yeah, more people should take advantage of it. I don't know why we don't.
We need more right now. I think we are taking advantage of it, because I don't know if you guys have reached out, like, with everything I've gone through with my brain injuries, I speak to professionals all the time. I have a team of psychologists. I have a team of counselors, but it's very hard right now to get an appointment with a psychologist or a counselor, because everybody's doing it, which is good. But so that's something we need to focus on in the medical field, is we need more psychologists. We need more counselors. We need more family counseling. We need that.
It needs to be more accessible.
It needs to be more accessible. And then if you really want to, like, a lot of people, when we talk about like the homeless population, a lot of people like feed the homeless. It's a mental health issue.
100%.
But the problem is we don't really have, nobody's taking the time. It takes time to cure mental health. There's layers. There's layers to this, and it takes a lot of sittings. It takes a lot of talking to it, and that's really the problem. Like they're on the street because there's something not right, in their mind. Yeah. Like there's a mental health condition, something that they're stuck on,
right?
That got them there,
right?
And like that's really what they need. Like it's not like yes, we need to feed them, of course. They need to have water, of course, but nobody's focusing on their mental health. And that's how you would clean up the streets really quickly, but it takes a lot of work, and there's no funding for that. So how do we get funding to focus on the homeless mental health? But people see them as no value, so they don't care. They don't care about putting money. They don't care about funding that, because they don't see the value in them.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Nobody's looking at the root cause, right? So the homeless and whatnot, they'll get locked up for the night, right? They'll go to jail for the weekend, whatever. But no one's why not put them into therapy for the weekend,
yes.
And I think Andrew Yang, who ran for president a couple years ago, that he made that point. He was like, why are we locking up, people who are obviously suffering from mental illness? Why are we not providing them with therapy and ways to help them? Because just locking them up for the weekend and then sending them back out into the general public doesn't do anything, right? So we need to focus on the root cause. We need to solve that, and we'll have a better result. So there are some people out there who agree with you, right? We gotta focus on that root cause. We gotta give them the therapy and the help that they need, because whatever, throwing them in jail or whatever it is for their actions, it's not gonna do anything.
Nothing.
Doesn't solve a damn thing, Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. You can catch all of our episodes on YouTube and Spotify at Better Gents Podcast, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Better Gents Pod. Thank you, and take care.